So there was an audio issue with my Stevie Richards clip coming up. There was a cricket in my garage. I didn't realize how bad the audio was going to be until I started editing. I still wanted to post it because it's a great interview segment. Sorry about the cricket.
Talk to me about the WWE.
WWE, well, once again, I'll go back to the ECW first time in the locker room, and even throughout my entire tenure in that locker room, you realize you're on a whole different level of humanity. And WWE was just like WCW was the same thing, but everybody was making money. It was a little more laid back. WWE was truly not without even knowing it, which could be a positive. The ignorance is bliss thing. I didn't realize what a shark tank I was in. What an absolute shark tank I was in. And just like everything else in my life, I learned things the hard way and figure it out. But all I did was show up and work hard every day. I tried my best. I worked hard every day. There had to be different, obviously when I first got there, I wasn't as lean as I was in later years. And then right to censor, I was my heaviest. So from a physical fitness standpoint, there was definitely a roller coaster, but performance wise, realizing that like all the lessons and the reps I got in ECW, especially on how to work in front of a live crowd and how to work on TV and how to present myself and how Raven taught me to have poise and presence and not move 100 miles an hour. And, it's never always, successful because you get nervous and that's when you mess up everything. So there was probably a lot of nervousness when I got there and I wasn't a great performer. I wasn't a great character, but WWE, I will say this could be by design, this could be my own, like we talked about before we got on to record, never know when your next check's coming, never know if you're getting booked, how much it is, how much you're making, all this stuff. But there was never 1 second of my entire 9.5 year career in WWE that I ever felt comfortable.
Really?
It'd be a good thing sometimes, but it also drive you nuts. I never felt comfortable. I never felt like, hey, I got something here. Hey, this is going to be good. You're in a shark tank full of people and you start to get over to a certain extent, especially when you're a heel that looks like you're about to be a top heel as a manager of a group, and you have another top heel who is about to marry the boss's, you're about to marry the boss's daughter. There's a lot of stuff that backstage that I can't even have access to fight for my own business.
What about in the ring?
By the time I get out to the ring, I was exhausted sometimes.
What about in the ring? Did you feel safe in the ring with your opponents, or was it just politically you never felt comfortable?
Politically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually, the wrestling is more draining than you can get a ring with it, the Acolytes or Bob Holly or these guys or that guys. And I'm not saying these guys are dangerous or trying to hurt you or anything, but there's very physical guys. Once you get that first shot, you're like, okay, I know what it feels like now. I'm good, like taking that first hit in football. But the mental, emotional games that they play in there, and it's our choice to be there too. We don't have to put up with it, but the games they play on each and every level, and even the top guys have told me stuff like Hunter getting punished as he's in the clay. You know what I mean? Nobody's immune to it. Just right. Some people are making a better living and a lot are getting messed with. But let me ask you, let me turn a question back around to you, because I'm coming in as a signed talent. I never had a developmental. I wasn't tested on that. I didn't have to do the 500 squats a day and outside of initially. What was it like when you guys went up? Because famously, if people don't know, like Dan Dubiel, like the opening of Raw, like Yokozuna just crushed this guy. And that was you were going in not only to the Shark Tank, but you were being fed to the lions. Physically, they were going to take advantage of you. What did that feel like?
Well, when you mention something like that, not only were we fed to the lions, but we were fed to the lions and we couldn't fight back. Not that I could, not that I'm a tough guy, but I was a tackling dummy. So, I had no chance. So if someone was going to take advantage of you, they were gonna. For the most part, everything was good. No one ever really took liberties. Matt Bourne would knock you out. He would definitely drop you on your head. The Quebecers, They kind of just, they did a finish, and every job guy they'd kill, every top guy they wouldn't touch, But yeah, you were really at the mercy of whoever you were working with. But for the most part, guys like the head shrinkers, when you see someone like them, they're either really, really good or really, really dangerous because they're so big, and they were really, really good. So for the most part, I was safe. Jeff Jarrett, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, they all took care of you.
Isn't it amazing? You're making them look great. If you're knocked out, you can't do anything for them. Isn't it amazing that the biggest guys, like the Samoans, you just said, they're so big and so you figure that there's going to be some part of their body that's just going to level you, because how can they control it so lightly? And they're the best workers I've ever been in the ring with. Yeah. So there's no excuse for guys our size to be knocking anybody out, right?
True. Pre-Right to Censor, what did they have you do there? I remember they had Meanie there with you at first, correct?
I came in to save Meanie from Al Snow. Then we tried to murder his dog at SummerSlam. Yeah.
Murder.
Yeah, we tried to hook it up to jumper cables, remember, in the parking lot?
Yes.
But most people don't remember that. All I remember is Jesse Ventura was there, and I was talking to him and sharing some of our conspiracy theories with each other. But they had me imitating people. So I imitated the Acolytes, imitated the Brood, imitated Gangrel, Blackman, Dude Love. There was a little that give me a few weeks there. Mostly Jack the Metal came on Raw a couple times, imitated Val against the Headbangers, I think. Imitated the Headbangers. So it was like doing all the ECW stuff over again. And then I showed up, it was Worcester, Mass in June, I think, of 2000. And that's when they said, why don't you cut your hair? And it was supposed to be an absolute joke, like a rib at first, or just something that was going to last 2 to 3 weeks. But one of the writers there, who is a great guy, and I'm still friends with him now, he's not there anymore. He wasn't there very long. Matter of fact, when he left is exactly when Right to Censor took that really quick dive, which, once again, you don't have an ally on the inside writing for you. That's what happens. But he turned it from just a rib on the Parent Television Council to what people know it is today, an actual cult that had people. And he went to bat with me for Vince, went to bat for me to Vince, and that's the rest is history. So he deserves all the credit for making it happen. We both worked on the promos, but that it happened as sudden as that. I think that's why we stay in the business, or had stayed in the business back then, because it can just, as good for good or bad, can just turn on a dime.
Yeah, Right to Censor was amazing. I mean, what an awesome heel group that was. I thought that was going to be around forever. How long was Right to Censor around for? Was it a year?
A little more than a year, man. It felt like it could have been longer. Here's the way I gauge it, and this is from years and years. I think when I did Dr. Stevie and TNA, I know we're going to get to it, I realized the purpose of a heel and how you get mileage and how you get more time on TV as a heel. You get baby faces over. Mm-hmm. That's it. Because then everybody's going to want to work with you once again, and you can run down all baby faces. Or if you start at the top, you work your way down. If you start at the bottom, you try to figure out to work with higher baby faces and angles. And that's what I mean. Right to Censor could have had Goodfather, could have come back as Godfather and had matches against the guys that were left and started turning guys back to the other. There could have been a whole other year of actual things, but they just politically, it just stops out of nowhere.
How did you get along with the guys in your group and Ivory?
Got along fine. I don't think they wanted to be in the group, and that's fine. They had, I'm sure the stories are out there about how, Godfather didn't want to be in it. Al didn't want to be, but you have to figure, I absolutely, completely understood. Right. Think about it, because people might not know this, but at a general level, baby faces make more, especially back then, baby faces make more money than heels because of merch sales, because of other things that popular characters are on.
So talk to me about the end of your WWE run.
It kind of ended on, from what I heard, the way it ended August 2008, 9.5-year run. If you want to back up, there was probably a couple times during that run in between, not during the years in the desert I talked about where I came back and I was consistent, but the fact that they were still not really doing anything with me, they did a little with me and Victoria. But after, especially after that WrestleMania 19 thing, I was like, we kind of just, we downward trajectory again. And I'm like, I need to go. I need to go to TNA. TNA just started up, or I got to go to Japan. I got to do something. And they didn't want to let me go because they found me to be somebody that would be plugged in when I wasn't on TV and developmental and working with guys, helping out. And they didn't have an official developmental NXT FCW yet. So I think they were holding on to me for something post ring. They just didn't know what it was. And I give them credit for that. But I really feel like if I left around even between 2004 and 2006, if I had left, I could have probably reinvented myself once again in TNA and maybe either stayed there, made some money, or came back to WWE. So, but that's a what if. But, you know, that day I got released from WWE, you know it's coming, Mike. I mean, they're not doing anything with me. I'm just being used sporadically. It's just a matter of time. Everybody in wrestling is eventually going to get released. Nobody really truly ever walks away from it, from a major company. They usually spend their time there. But it was just a financial thing. What I had heard was, and it's just simple. This is way, like you said, how it can turn on a dime. There used to be meetings, and this is what I heard. I think Tommy told me, but don't quote me on that. But if you want to, you know, if he gets in trouble, then it'll be a good rib. So it's Dreamer's fault. But basically, they go around and they'll give names during this creative meeting. So they'll give a name and be like, somebody will go, "Oh yeah, we got a match on Heat," or "We're going to use him for this or that." You know, something to where Vince will say the name or somebody. And if somebody says something, like in every single week, they would always say, "Yeah, Stevie will," or Vince will be like, to Vince's credit, who really appreciated my work ethic, and he told me that, and he didn't have to say any. When Vince McMahon says he appreciates your work ethic, I'm like, dude, you don't even sleep. You know? So why this was just your run-of-the-mill creative meeting at Titan Towers or wherever it was, and Vince or whoever had said Stevie Richards. Nobody said anything, and he said, "Okay, cut him or release him," or, you know, or maybe it wasn't even spoken of. If there was nothing, time to release. Right. And that was around, I think, with the Highlanders. So it was a round of releases that were coming up, you know, in August of that year, which generally isn't the way it's done. It's usually post WrestleMania or right after the New Year. So this kind of hit all of us kind of by surprise. But I also knew, like, okay, well, now it's up to you.
Before we go, can you talk to me about any personal interaction you've had with Vince McMahon, any Vince stories one-on-one, or even talk about the current stuff going on with Vince?
Well, I've never seen anything like what, you know, is coming out about the NDAs. I've never seen anything, you know, outside of the boisterous type of, you know, like he acts like a college frat brother or something, you know what I mean? Very, very alpha male type stuff. Nothing that I, you know, but I've never, like, the thing about, I would see Vince or talk to Vince in certain situations when it was mostly all positive, where he would give me, I mean, obviously sometimes in Gorilla, he would just give me the death stare because I did something he didn't want me to do or left something out. But Vince, to his credit, there was one time in a meeting, I had a match with Bob Holly on Velocity, and we told a hell of a story. And that's credit to Bob with the kind of worker that he doesn't get credit for being. Worked his leg. And we had a second match where I just worked his back. And he sold it. But finally, he finally tried to, he couldn't get me, you know, we kept working back to the Alabama Slam. Finally got it. Vince, during a talent meeting, which I wasn't even there for some, I think they took me out of it just so I wouldn't, I don't know why. I wasn't in the talent meeting. Bob was. And Vince brought a TV in and played the match. Wow. You got the whole roster there. And he goes, these are the stories that I want told on my shows. This kind of story. Look at these guys work, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what do you do, you know, after that? That's awesome. I mean, that's kind of like, it wasn't a personal interaction, but it's probably one of those ones. And like I said, I give all the credit to Bob with that for being a guy that sold and the babyface made the heel actually have heat and fight from underneath and make the match. When I was training Shane McMahon, Dreamer and I were training him for his match against Shawn Michaels, Saturday night's main event. We would go down the tracks and train him. Vince showed up a couple times and wanted us to kill Shane. Kill him. He was cheering for us to beat his son up.